Mrs. Celiwe Ross. You good? Thanks, everyone. You're going to bear with us. We're both also recovering from a cold, but really looking forward to spending the next hour or so with you. We've prepared very brief slides, no words. Andre and I generally speak quite a bit, and we want to keep it as authentic and as real as possible, and encourage you to do the same with your questions. The way that we've structured it is I'll speak a little bit about myself and a little bit about my upbringing, etc. And then Dre will do the same. And then we'll end off just talking about us and our life, our personal life and family. But also, I think why we decided to do this session together was because we get the question a lot about, like, how do you guys do this? And so I thought we could spend some time sharing some of the practicalities around our crazy life. It is crazy at times, and hopefully some insights both for the ladies and the gents in the room. Cool? Anything?
Yeah, and look, what we're hoping to, we've never done this before. We've never actually spoken together before. When we speak at the same time, we're generally fighting. So, so, um, so I'm gonna have to try and keep up with it. But because we do get the question a lot, we thought we'll just have a very open conversation with you guys, right? You guys are a year trying to learn and craft your own leadership journey, right? But we focus a lot on our profession. We're very ambitious. But your profession is only one part of your life, right? Just because you don't achieve any professional heights doesn't make you an unsuccessful human. And I think people forget that, right? What we thought was, look, we'll just speak to you guys, tell you a little bit about ourselves, tell you a little bit about how we navigate things, and then hopefully you can see, look, we're just two flawed individuals trying to make by, and through that, hopefully you learn as well. Finally, please be as open as you want to be. We purposefully didn't um, write a formal presentation. We spoke about this a lot. We thought we're just going to speak to you guys. So we're hoping to just have a conversation with you. You can ask us anything. I'm happy to see that there are many guys in the room. Not only are there guys, there's even a father who brought his kid. I love it.
Yeah.
Because I think it speaks to what we're trying to achieve, right? We're very big proponents of finding ways to integrate your life and not to separate out your profession from what you might be called to do, right? And that's something that we don't often do in South Africa, given our history. Many of us are still what I call first generation acquirers. So you still meet many first. Like she's the first black female mining engineer in the country. I'm the first black managing director for an international bank in the country. So what it means is just many of us still have black tax and we do things because we have to, not necessarily because we want to, right? And hopefully you guys will learn throughout. Despite that, you can still create the impact you want, and that ultimately is what's important. Is what is the impact you want, right? So not the person next to you, because ultimately you're just accountable for yourself, and everyone's definition of success should be different. Can't all be the same, right? So thank you for choosing our session. Or I don't know if you were put in the room, but
I asked.
but really, hopefully we can all learn from each other and just spend some time together. And congratulations for all of you for getting into the seat. There were lots of people who applied. So I believe in serendipity. So you guys are where you're supposed to be today, and so are we. And so hopefully we can leave this room better for it.
Awesome. Thank you. I'm going to start. I'm going to keep it brief. There's so much to say about what's on the screen, but thought, sometimes pictures say 1,000 words. So let's go. I am born and bred in Soweto. My parents both grew up there, and I grew up there too. And in case you haven't worked it out by now, I have an identical twin sister, and her name is Siposetu. And we grew up in a very small and close knit nuclear family, mom, dad, and us. My mom was a nurse, and my dad actually started out as a shop steward in the unions and ended up working in HR. And it's quite fascinating how we've ended up. My sister is a civil engineer, my dad was a shop steward in construction, and I've ended up in HR, which is what he ended up doing. And I often say to people when I speak about my parents, I think we were quite fortunate to have two very different parents and parenting styles. My mom was the roots and my dad was the wings. So by roots, I mean values, faith, religion, family, the things that ground you as a person. And my dad was definitely the wings. He had two daughters, and as a man who was born in apartheid South Africa, had immense dreams for both of them. He really didn't hold us back at all. Fortunately, Setu and I were pretty smart and went on to study engineering, both of us. And I often reflect on our journey and feel like we really are our parents' wildest dreams come true. It's not what they imagined was possible for them, and certainly not for us. And unfortunately, both of them are late now. But even in the times when they were there and saw us chart a different way forward, the sense of pride and achievement in both of them was always immense. And both of their friends and siblings who are still around reflect on the same. So something that I'm immensely proud of, irrespective of the titles and the achievements, really just the opportunity that they charted for us and how they raised us, and particularly as girl children at that time, is something I'm super grateful for. Just a little bit about my one and only sibling. I have a twin sister, Setu. She's also a civil engineer, as I mentioned. She is married to Angula, who she met at university. In fact, my sister met her husband on the first day of orientation week at university. Mm. So they've been married for this year will be 21 years. Needless to say, I had a more colorful route. But I got there. Eventually, I got there. But they've been together for 20 years. They have two daughters and are obviously a very big part of our life. As you heard from Nasipi earlier, my career really started in the mining industry in South Africa. And I don't know how many people have been on a mine, been underground. It's a very different world. And many of my leadership lessons today are lessons I took working underground with a section of men who were mostly my father's age. Many of them were functionally illiterate and never completed primary school. But leadership transcends all of those things. It actually has nothing to do with qualification or education or success. And if you imagine working underground, every day you go underground, your own life and the life of other people is at risk. So you're literally leading together so that you survive together every single day. And also, how you make money is because of each other. So basic pay in Oman is not great. They make a lot of money from bonuses. And being able to achieve production bonuses needs a team to work together. And so some of my leadership lessons, as I said today, that I really take forward from me started in a mine with men who had hopes and aspirations and dreams for themselves and for their children, who had learned a skill that I didn't know. So they could lift more than me, they could lift heavier than me, they could do very different things than me. And learning how to find value and express my own value in that environment was a big part of my journey. Because I'm not them and I didn't have to be them. It was just about finding where I could contribute very meaningfully in a world that technically actually wasn't made for me. And in that, I think I see it throughout my own career and leadership. Like Andre mentioned earlier, serendipity is a big word. And I believe there's been so much of that in my own professional life. Even studying mining engineering wasn't really the plan. Like I wanted to study engineering, but I didn't quite think it didn't, I didn't even know about mining engineering before I started. I think my mom almost had a heart attack when I came home. We went to a Wits open day, my sister and I. I'm a Witsie. And my sister, who wanted to study civil engineering and got there and absolutely fell in love. Can you see the thing about my sister? And like, she's, yeah. So me, I got to the School of Make Eng and I was like, no, this is not for me. Like I just didn't feel at home. And somehow I did in mining engineering. And even when I had to transition into a career in investment banking, it was the same. I really didn't know what iBanking was or what it was about. And a lot of what I've had to figure out in that time of my career was really based on skills that I've continued to acquire as I went. I just believe, I think the older that I've gotten and the more I've matured, particularly as an executive, I've started to believe very much in the power of stories and storytelling. And because I firmly believe when we finish at the end of this hour, someone in this room will identify with a certain part of my story. in the same way that someone in this room is going to identify with many parts of his story and hopefully our joint story too. It's what unites us as human beings. It's not really about qualification or background or gender, race, where we come from. There are just so many other things that connect us as human beings. And success is never achieved alone. The success that we share, both professionally and personally, is not one that's achieved alone. And throughout those phases of my career, it has been an important consideration that I've had to harvest. Before I finish, I just want to touch on the bottom two pictures on the right, just to finish off on the professional part. Obviously, the first two at the bottom, I put them there because they're mining pictures. I don't have so many anymore. I say often I'd be remiss to call myself an engineer now. Can't do any of those complex mathematical calculations I used to be able to do. But that's where it started. And the middle part of my career has really been transitioning into a more, let's call it a professional service in banking and in financial services. And those are different skills, right? So even though you know, maybe you've studied accounting or you understand how to build financial models, you become more successful as a banker because of relationships and clients. And there needs to be an affinity. So your ability to be able to sit across a table and negotiate and discuss very complex financial terms is to commiserate when things not work out, but also celebrate the successes is all about relationships. And I think it's about like knowing your own truth. What are the things that I'm good at? What are the things that I contribute here? And not shrinking back on the things that you don't know. And so a level of curiosity is so important as I've grown in my own career. That middle picture was taken in Ghana. We lived in Ghana for about 4 years. When I was working at Standard Bank, they actually sent us over as a family, and many, many life lessons learned in that journey. A lot of who I've become, particularly as a black woman and as a black woman leader, was honed and learned in a West African country where mostly everybody looks like me, but then leadership takes on a very different stance. And a big reminder, and I suppose also like a big tribute that I always have to that time there, and a reminder of who I was becoming at that time, is comes in African print and color. Almost always am dressed in print in some way, shape, or form. You can see it in the pictures, and today as well. It's a big part of what has qualified me as a leader, because I felt it was different and it was representative. And I feel like Africa doesn't get a great rep oftentimes. And I feel like we all have an opportunity to represent the continent positively. And so that's just my contribution. A little bit about where I am today. I'm an executive at Old Mutual and lead a number of functions at group level there. I've really had to grow and learn a lot in that journey, some of which is very public in the public domain, from social media crises to a very acrimonious separation with a CEO I dearly loved, and had to work through so many of those challenges alone. But fortunately, and I'm going to hand over to Dre, I think, like, fortunately for us, people always say your pillow talk must be very interesting. And it is, because at least, I can go home and have a place to be able to talk. In my work and in my role, there really are very few people I actually can talk to. And oftentimes I'm dealing with matters that people will only discover many months hence, and need to figure it out, not because I have to be perfect or anything, but oftentimes it is about just weighing up what are the options I've got here, what's the best thing that I can do or not, so please don't worry, you can stay even if you stand in the
No,
corner. You
yeah,
can stay.
seriously. We have
You can
young
stay.
kids too, so
You will
like like don't worry,
don't worry,
don't worry
please
about
don't
it.
worry.
As long as it's not disturbing anybody
Yeah.
else. Yeah, please stay.
Yeah. Yeah, so that last picture is actually a cover picture that of a magazine that I took, and what I liked about it was it captured so much of the many parts of who I am and am becoming, and what I liked about it was it talked about the future. If you write a quote down that completely embodies who I am and how I think about leadership, it's by a gentleman called Marcus Buckingham. And he talks about leadership and he says leaders are fascinated by the future. He says you can only, he says, when you're a leader, you see what's possible and you see where you are, and the delta between those two things, it keeps you awake at night. Like it gives you urgency to get there as quickly as possible, and that you are only a leader if and only if you're fascinated by that better future. And that's a very big part of me and my own leadership journey. Jay?
Thank you. That was supposed to be 5 minutes. So I'm gonna have to make up for time now, but you can also already start seeing how we make things work, right? Somebody somebody has to pick up the pieces. So a little bit about me. I was just sitting in the 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 speaker room, and somebody asked me, "Where are you from?" So I have a very mixed background, as you can see from my first family picture. My mother is half Malawi and half Xhosa, and my father is half Cape Malay, half Scottish. So I have a sister who's 8 years younger than me, but as you can see, I don't look anything like the rest of. We don't look anything like the rest of our greater family. My mother grew up in Malawi, came back when she was in her late teens, settled in the Eastern Cape, so also not very close. And then I grew up on the Cape Flats, Gangster Central, place called Kraaifontein. So I have a very eclectic upbringing. And then with the name like Andre Ross, we often walk into a room and people say, "Hey, we thought you were coming with your husband," because they assume she's married to a white guy. Then I show up. So so um, I've kind of grown up not really fitting in anywhere. Always confusing people. So it's always easier for people to think I come from somewhere else. But so that's who a little bit about my background. My father passed away when I was 13. My mother remarried later. I just have the one biological sister, but I have six siblings that I don't really know very well. I left home when I was 18. Um, so largely my formative years, I guess, my teenage years, I was raised by a single mother who was literally fighting for just keeping us afloat. My father was an upholsterer, like he did covers, and my mother, neither of them finished school, but my mother, so really made sure that we did well in school. That's the only thing she could give us. At 3 points in my life, I've lived in a garage, in someone's garage. So, um, um, yeah, so it hasn't been a straight path. I finished high school fairly young. Uh, I was 16. I went to UCT medical school for 4 years. No, I'm not finished before you start throwing me accolades. I failed in year four as academically excluded. So my first sort of major failure in life. Then I had a lot of debt. I didn't have a scholarship, a lot of debt. Couldn't, I personally couldn't deal with the community pressure. It's like, the aunties from down the street coming like, "Hey, dude, like we were banking on you." So if I was now studying for everyone, but I'm honest, I couldn't deal with it. So an uncle of mine was driving to Namibia. I literally got in the car and then off I went because I just can't deal. I went to Namibia, so I had all this debt. But then I met the girl. There's always girls involved, but a father was the dean of the science faculty in the University of Namibia. So I didn't apply. So I just asked the, "Hey man, can I talk to your dad? I don't have anything. I don't know what I'm gonna do." Long story short, after the December holiday, I had a job at Edgar's. I was selling perfume, and I had admission into um, BSc at University of Namibia. Lo and behold, I failed again. I got trained here, right? How did I make it this far? Failed again, and then ended up just doing whatever, accounting. So only a faculty that would take me. So now I was working, selling perfume, and doing a degree in accounting, Bachelor of Accounting degree. Eventually, I finished that one. But what I ended up doing then was buying and selling cars. I'd buy cars in Cape Town, drive them up to Namibia, sell them. You could sell 10 cars a year without needing a dealership license. So I figured that out somehow. So by the time, after those 4 years of my Bachelor of Accounting degree, I then had no debt. I paid off the degree, I had looked after myself. Okay. But my degree was still very average. I was a C student, right? I couldn't get into CTA. I couldn't get it. I couldn't get none of the big four wanted me. So eventually, I helped a friend set up a computer business. Uh, he needed somebody to set up an accounting system. I didn't really know what I was doing, but I'd done accounting degrees. Okay, let me set up your accounting system. It was such a small outfit. Like, here's a funny little story. We used to sell Sahara computers. Do you know who owns Sahara computers? Guptas. I was helping in the early cash flow management of the Guptas. Unknowingly. Anyway, um, somebody didn't show up for work. Long story, it's gonna get shorter. Somebody didn't show up for work. I said, okay, I'll go and deliver the computers. I took the computers to deliver to a company who bought them. As I walked in, I just thought, hey, this is a nice offices. I'd like to work here, right? And so I was chatting to the lady who paid for the computers. She happened to be the CFO, and I said, oh, I just did an accounting degree. Like, do you guys need anybody? She said, yeah, we're actually looking for someone. So then I did the interview there. I had my first accounting job, right? So I did that for 12 months. Into another girl. Uh, they have a theme in my life. So she then went to Israel, worked for Development Finance Institute, and she was there for 6 months. And she called and she said, "Hey man, these guys need an accountant. Are you keen?" I applied, and off I went to Israel. So I lived there for 5 years. I was an accountant, a departmental accountant. Then I became a financial analyst for the whole fund. And then I reported to the board. So now I was about 27, 28. And then two of the board members were big investment bankers. The one guy was like the 2IC for Citigroup, very guy called Grant Kavalheim. I'd never known about banking. But then these guys were agitating what's possible. So I always felt like if you move around people, you're in their aura. It doesn't mean you can be exactly what they do. But like Martin Luther King always said, right? If you can't be a tree, be a bush. If you can't be a road, be a trail. Like be something. Just be constructive, contribute to the community, right? And that inspired me to do my MBA. Eventually, and these two pictures I put there because I said with all that failure, I kind of still got there. Somehow, right? So why I wanted you guys I always tell because the two of us are very different. She's walked a straighter path than I have, but we both found each other eventually, right? And we both found where we are in spaces where we can have impact and different impact. So the reason why I think that's important is because no matter what happens to your life, I firmly believe careers are not a straight line. Everybody thinks of it as a straight line. It's more like a jungle gym. For some people, it is a straight line. For others, they've got to go down to get to the next thing. You might have to go around the corner, get back up. The point is you have to keep going, right, and keep holding on. Don't fall off. Don't let go. Don't jump off the jungle gym. Just eventually you'll get to the top as long as you keep looking for your next handhold, right? And so for me, my story tells that, right? Now, last year after GNU, I hosted the presidential delegation at our head office in London with all our seniors. I just got back from New York for our 50 most senior leaders in my global line of business, and I was only one of two black guys in the room. Right now, I say that because I believe God put me there. Like, like I'm sitting there next to the Harvard guys. Like literally, these guys come from Harvard, Columbia. Here's me, University of Namibia. Like 3 degrees failed, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I'm in the same room now. I have a voice. It's my responsibility now to make sure that, look, I can speak for the other who are not the straight, the narrow path guys. I can speak for the Jungle Gym boys, right? So this is why we thought we're very different. Okay, I also like bikes. That's me with Mkolisi Mgojo. He's former CEO of Exaro. I met him riding a bike. I used to run an NGO. But you can say I'm a big guy. But there, I finished the Cape Epic 3 times. I don't know if you know what the Cape Epic is. It's the toughest mountain bike race. I don't look like a guy who can do that, right? But sometimes I do believe in demonstrating that you can do whatever you put your mind to. And again, for me, the goal is to finish. I don't want to be first, right? So I'm competing against myself, and I guess that's the important message that you. I'm going to go back to what we said in the beginning around the definition of success has to be personal. It has to be for yourself because your contribution to the world cannot be the same as the next person. Your life is just not the same. So both of our contributions cannot be the same. We have different definitions of professional success, but we have one definition of couple success and family success. And that's the difference, right? So I'm going to just introduce a concept of wings. She spoke about her dad was the wings. So my view is like both of us are equal wings. Our family and our home is the bird. We're not the same, but we have to beat at the same strength consistently. If one beats stronger than the other, there's going to be circles. You're going to find circles, or you're going to be very volatile. But if we get it right and we beat in concert, then the bird will soar, right? Everybody then benefits. Families are also the nucleus of any society. That's why I said I'm glad there's men in the room, black men in this room, right? It's important. Black men have to show up, right? Our women carry a lot. Like, I'm not going to sit here and represent, okay, we're equal wings. Like, she carries 80% of the load in the house. I will lie to you. Yes, I know the kids' schedule, but how did the schedule get there? Yes, I know where they need to be when, but who set that up, right? And she's equally as busy as me. Yes, I know we have to eat, but like, I don't know what the menu looks like. I'll be open, right? But the food's always there. So it doesn't mean, yeah, equal wings for who? Great. But like, she carries more in many respects, right? I believe I carry more in other ways. So let's go a little bit forward. And then let me start now, if you don't mind. So this is our family. We have 3 kids. And one thing I'd like to share with you, both of us are each other's second marriage. Another failure.
Yeah.
Neither of us survived our first marriages. We met in business school. We were both married to other people at the time. We had nothing to do. Please, whoa. We had nothing to do with the demise of each other's marriages. Please, let's just make that very clear. Let's just make that very clear. Let's just make that very clear. I'm married someone in Israel, non-South African, Russian lady. She had a different engineer husband who's very successful in his own right. All 3 of us were in business school together. So I knew them, right? All 4 actually, but we knew each other, right? But we said we're going to be open. So we're not speaking to you guys as people who've gotten anything or everything right. In fact, we've gotten more wrong than we've got right. But what we did do, and I will hand over to her, is Celiwe always says the most important career decision anyone can ever make is the choice of their life partner. And I completely buy into that because both of us have had a second chance and we engage with it very differently. And both of our careers have grown exponentially throughout the second chance versus the first chance, right? Because we chose very differently, I'd like to believe, second time round. I will stop now. Our third born, our last son, his name is
I'll introduce the kids.
okay, you'll do that. So sorry, but the final point. Okay, now I've lost my final point, love.
It'll come.
Sorry. Okay, you go ahead.
I was also going to start on the failure point because I think that's important. Even when I was sharing at the beginning, I mean, there are so many failures along the way. And I think oftentimes people look at me, they look at Dre, or they look at us together and they assume a journey that's been perfect to get us here. And it really hasn't been. And he's really right. I say this a lot, and I say it particularly to women, but I actually like that you've made it almost synonymous with both genders because it is true. The biggest career decision you will make is the life partner that you choose. If you want a big corporate career, best you find the wife or the husband who's going to support that. If you don't want to work and you want to stay home with your kids, best you find the wife or husband who's going to enable that. Those are all choices. They're career decisions that you're making about what success looks like for you and in your family. And particularly for us as women who tend to believe that ours will change. They don't change, and neither will you. So, like, I think the biggest work that we all have to do in our individual selves as leaders and as people is being true to ourselves. Just know who you are, know what success looks like for you. And so, as you know, we both had a failed marriage. I have a child from my first marriage, and that's our first son, the one in the middle in the picture where we were all dressed in white. His name is Ndlela. Lela's 15. And then we struggled very, very much to have our second child together. And I guess as a woman, I always felt like it was an important thing in our marriage for us. I've been blessed and very fortunate that Ndlela and André are very, very close. In fact, many people outside of this room, when they find out that André is not Ndlela's biological father, are shocked. I'm super grateful to God for that and to him, to André, for that, because the father-son relationship in him has not been broken. In fact, Ndlela often says, you know what, I'm like Jesus, I have 2 dads. Um, Yeah, so we are grateful that the two of them have, and they bond over sports. You can see we spend a lot of time as a family doing very active and outside things. We really do believe in giving our children experiences in different ways. Believe you me, I can't canoe. That picture is so overly impressive, but it was fun and they enjoyed it. And we're quite deliberate about our holidays and our times together. It took us a while to fall pregnant with our second child. In fact, I'd completely given up on falling pregnant. We had tried medical intervention and IVF, which failed 4 times. And I'd kind of concluded this was it. And I said to Andre, look, clearly Ndlela's all we're going to have. And we're good. The three of us are good like this. And we had gone overseas. We are actually at Legoland. When Ndlela was smaller, he was obsessed with Lego. And I really wasn't feeling well at all. And when we came back home, I went to my doctor and said, I don't know, something is up. It's either yellow fever, dengue fever, Ebola, something. Like I travel a lot. Can you just like run tests? Something's going on. I'm not okay. And then she came back and she was like, I know exactly what's wrong with you. You're pregnant. And at that time, I was 40 years old. Um, every medical professional had basically told us it was impossible. I was just too old. It hadn't happened for us. And on the 31st of March of 2020, when the world had gone very quiet, in the greatest disaster and human kind of separation event that we will know in our generation of COVID-19, 3 days after hard lockdown was announced, I gave birth to a little girl, and her name is Liana Izulu. In fact, that morning, that day, when we were driving to go to the doctors, we didn't even know if he would be allowed in. And again, for any of you who have your own children, I really desired the experience for him to see what it was like for a child to be born. Ndlela and Andre are father and son, it's his child, but he had never had that experience for himself. And because it was still quite early into COVID and the hospitals weren't as organized as they eventually became, they actually did allow him in and we got to experience that together. And so I was 41. I just turned 41 at the time when I delivered Liana. And then about 10 or 14 months later, on Father's Day, I discovered I was pregnant with our last son. And his name is Enza Ogusha. His name is inspired by a biblical verse in the book of Isaiah that talks about the fact that, behold, I'm doing a new thing. And so I gave birth to Enza at the age of 43. I'm 46 today, and they are 15, 5, and 3.
Yeah, and so on that point, um, our country is at a very interesting stage, right? Uh, we often can become distracted by what smarter people than me call morbid symptoms, meaning you see everything around you is not working. Like people are crime, traffic lights aren't working, potholes, unemployment is high, state capture, you name it. Like everything around you feels, you just see the morbid symptoms of what's not working. But our country is 30 years into its democracy. If you look at what's happening in the US, I often ask people what happened in US history 30 years after the Declaration of Independence. They were in civil war. That country is 200 years old, right? Exponentially older as a democracy. And look at what they're dealing with as a leader. Look at the divisions they have, the stuff that we've navigated and we're still navigating, but we're navigating in a very young ecosystem. Why I draw that parallel for you is because all of us are the new things, right? All of us have the opportunity to articulate or animate that verse. Like, be the new thing in your own sphere of influence, in your own family, in your own home. Now, why that little point is important is because as a couple, a base, a foundational view for us is the following. One, yes, as a family, we need, if people interact with us, they need to be better off than before they met us. Two, whatever we acquire is not just for us. We have to lift as we rise, as Tetonyati Odangwale says, right? And most importantly, we are trying to raise children that are builders, that are contributors, that don't take, that give more than they consume. So based on that, those are the three fundamental cores. So when we have to make decisions that take us in different ways, that's always where we try to come back to, right? So the final point I'll make is even when we make our career decisions, um, or when we talk about things, neither of us, look, uh, it's nice to be a CEO, it's nice to get those opportunities, right? But what we always talk about is how do you pave the way, even if the seat is not mine, how do I do enough for the person whose seat is going to be? So in our spaces, how do we lead collectively? How do we lead individually to pave the way for the person who will get the seat, even if isn't us? Does that make sense? So why that's important is because we'll go now into just speaking, okay, how do you navigate this? And how do you navigate cycles in your career? And how do you navigate this while you're raising a young family? Given all these objectives I've given, because if I want to raise kids that are builders, what is a base assumption that you think or base requirement for that? Like, what do you think is sorry? Correct? I need to be a builder myself or us, yes. What else? Think about them. Correct? And in that environment, you need to be present. You spend time. But like, how are you doing that when you're also trying to climb the corporate ladder? Like, and the higher you go, the more demands there is for your time. Do you understand the juxtaposition? And then you're both doing it. So like, who goes first? Who's more important? Right? There's only 5 days work days. There's only 2 weekend days. There's 3 kids. So that's what we want to try and articulate for you guys. Like, okay, like here's some of our thoughts around how we navigate that. Okay.
Thanks. That was great. Um, like for me, Dre, I don't know. I'm going to keep it super practical. I mean, yeah, you raised the thing about the wings and not inequity, but I think we have to we contribute differently to balance off the wings. I'm super organized as a person. Excel planned our wedding in the same way that it plans our life. AI for the future. And so, yeah, meals happen purely because on a Sunday, I have to plan what happens for the rest of the day, the week. I actually can't cook during the week. I don't have time to cook. I enjoy cooking, but I'm also fortunate in the fact that he doesn't expect me to cook. I think he enjoys my food, but he doesn't have that expectation. So if he was to get back home and there wasn't anything, he's gonna figure it out. It's not my job to feed him. I like to care and nurture for our family and make sure that we can provide certain things. But I honestly don't enjoy being made to cook or being made to nurture. I think it has to come from a place of giving. Unfortunately, he doesn't have that requirement. But I have a formula. On a Sunday afternoon, I cook 2 proteins, so 2 meat dishes, 2 starches, and 4 veg. And that gets us to about Thursday because we normally have takeaways on a Friday. Weekend, it's a free for all. He braais. We do different things on weekends. We don't have to plan it. And also, as Andre mentioned, we travel a lot. But from a practical perspective, we try not to travel at the same time. Our PAs talk to each other and help plan some of that. It doesn't always work out. There are times when it happens, but it doesn't happen often. Our eldest son, Lela, is in boarding school. He chose to go to full-time boarding school in KZN. And so that also adds a level of complexity, right? That's them in the middle there at his basketball match. And one of the things that we tried to do, Andre was talking to another colleague whose son wants to go down to school there. And he was like, look, you go there more often than you think. And so we have a formula. We go down once a month as a family. He goes down once by himself to see Ndlela to support sports. And then he comes home for half term and vice versa. That's how we manage it. And it might sound very rigid and formulaic. It works for us. And I think children also need a level of certainty. They need to know what's coming. And certainly with them, they'll ask, like, who's around this week? Who's traveling? What's happening with us? Why are you guys going somewhere on a Saturday? Like, that doesn't happen. They know it's not part of our routine to be doing something like this today. And so we really try to help. I mean, we really try to plan. And before I hand back to you, Dre, the other thing that certainly as a woman I've had to accept is I need help. To try and do it all by myself is just not going to work. So we do have a smallanyana payroll at home. We need an au pair to help us in the afternoons. We drop off our kids in the morning at school. One of us does or both. We try to plan that in the mornings on a Monday, who's going where, what's happening, who's dropping off in the morning. It's a great moment to spend time unencumbered with them in the car as they get ready to go to school. Try not to take any work calls during that time. Doesn't always work out, guys, but often that's like a commitment that I have, is to get the conversation going and drop them, and then we can get to work. Sometimes we do it together when we're driving into the office. So the afternoons we can't, they're small. Lela's in boarding school, and Liana and Enza are small. So we need help in the afternoons, and we have an au pair who works with us Monday to Friday and deals with the afternoons, who's been absolutely amazing. And obviously we have someone who lives with us too, actually, who live with us and help with the house and the kids, etc. So I get that there's a level of privilege in that, because obviously they have to be paid. So I acknowledge that. But I think we work hard to try and create that environment for them, and even for the people who work with us and for us. They really are a greater part of our family. They celebrate Mother's Day with us because they themselves are helping in the mothering journey too. And we try to balance off between all three kids who are at different stages and have different needs of him. I feel our teenage son needs him more than he needs me. It has been a difficult thing to accept, but actually they have very different conversations. And I'm like, when did he tell you that? Did he call you? He didn't call me, So, but I've had to like accept and love that for them. I think it's important as a boy. At least I still have Enza, who is enamored with his mom, which is wonderful. But yeah, I think those are just some of the practical day-to-day things. I mean, I can go and watch Ndlela play rugby, but 80% of the time I'm not quite sure what's happening. I'm more worried about someone tackling him than anything. Whereas yesterday, André and Ndlela went, he was taking an extra rugby lesson. And in the car, as they came into the house, he's like, you see, this is what I meant about this. This is what I'm talking about with ball skills or whatever. So it's a relationship that I can't match. And I really actually am not going to try to. I think it's beautiful to watch them blossom together in things that they enjoy. And fortunately, Ndlela's chosen sports that Andre enjoys. So it's a big bonding moment for them. Yeah.
Okay. So it's always easy to remember things in a structured way, right? So basically, what she was trying to say is we've got three C's we want you to remember. So the first C is coordination. So,
Thanks.
yeah, which is when she was saying about our staff, everything, right? So even to the level of our assistants talk to each other, how calendars mirror each other's calendars. The reason is so that we can navigate. One, we've made a decision about presence. One of us is always at home, largely. It's not always achievable, but like 95% of the time. So even my travel for the year gets scheduled in concert with her travel. When she's got board cycles, then I've got to be home. When we're both home, 2 days a week, I do school drop-offs. 2 days a week, she does school drop-offs. We really have the chance to do it together, but there are sacrifices that have to be made. Largely, we try to attend all of our kids' school events. Like one of us has to be there. It's not always easy, but then again, those are trade-offs, right? So remember why I said what our core principles were. So our family comes before our jobs. It sounds strange, but like I've been asked this question. So last year, we'll come to this. Clearly went through another leadership change. She's had two senior leadership changes. You can't imagine the strain that puts on it. So she almost burnt out. She had to take some time out. So when that happens, then I said, okay, you take that and I'll take the lead, right? So I've got to be more. And I got into a situation where my boss said, hey, dude, your priorities are off, meaning, hey, my work is suffering a little bit. So I was like, priorities according to who? It's a tough thing to hear, but my priorities are my priorities, right? So in my head, I always feel like work is important, it's part of it, but the company. I'm not Andre Morgan. It's not my father's bazaar shop. They can kick me out any day. That's the truth, right? So glass balls, rubber balls. Family is a glass ball. So it has to be coordinated. A rubber ball, I can lose my job, but I'm sure you've heard how much I've failed. I'm sure I'm gonna bounce back somewhere, right? So what I'm trying to say is, once you've decided about your life principles, do not make decisions based on fear. Make them based on principle, right? And then make your decisions based on principle. So we've got to give and take. It's not always the same. So the first is coordination. We are completely, our calendars, our assistants, our support, like we have to be integrated. Otherwise, there's many balls, right? So the two of us, what we found happens is the romance tends to slip a little bit because like our relationship can become very transactional. When we're together in the car, it's like, okay, who's gonna do this? Who's gonna do that? So you also have to protect against that. So even in our diary, this date night where no phones allowed, it's just the two of us. Largely, we try and keep it, but even the kids know it's there because we also need time, right? And the other thing that has fallen by the wayside is our friend circles, our own friends. The weekends, we're spending time with our kids' parents, right? So they are choosing our friends first now, but again, it's a trade-off because I do want to be successful professionally. I do want her to be successful professionally, but I also want to be successful parentally, right? And as a husband. So my boys actually have to like they don't see me as much as they used to. There will be another time. Hopefully, they still make sacrifices. So we've got 10 minutes left. We really need to move. Do you mind if I just introduce the second one?
Yeah.
So there's the third one is actually in the what I just said, which is constant flexibility. Now, I don't want to tell a part of your story, but there's been a couple of times where Tilly's been in situations where she's just said, look, like I can't deal, right? And the thing that actually made her switch from investment banking to what she's doing now was she had an opportunity. It was a bit of an off-piste opportunity. She went that route. We agreed as a family, okay, fine, go and try. She went after a year, it really didn't work out. She didn't have any plans. She just said, okay, I'm going to quit. That's cool. This is my job now to step forward and say, okay, look, I'm going to carry, right? You do what you need to do. She did that, took a few months, 6, 7 months. Eventually, fate had it that she then got onto this track, right? Last year, I went through a very serious organizational thing where my job was at risk. So I was in a very difficult situation. I had to just deal with that. So then while I had to take a step back, she then took a step forward, right? And then pulls. So in those instances, the wings aren't beating at the same time. There's lots of volatility in the household, right? Because now one of the wings is dealing with life, right? But the other one's beating a bit stronger, so the bird stays up. Okay, the bird's not moving forward or up. It's bumpy, but it's still flying. It hasn't crashed, right? So constant flexibility, what we mean by that is there are times life happens where you need to be, as a couple, able to cycle through what life just throws at you, right? And what that also means is one's career may take a back seat slightly while the other one's thrives. That has to be collectively discussed. So whenever we have a new opportunity come, we actually talk about it collectively to say, okay, what is the impact on us holistically? It's great for you. And she had an opportunity where it was a very exceptional professional opportunity. Eventually, she declined because, like right now, the family can't handle. We won't be able to handle it. So, and the same happened on my side, right? Where I just couldn't take a role. It would have taken me away too much to handle that point in time. So then you take back steps and you make trade-offs, right? So that's the second one. So the third C is communication. So the most difficult one. I'm handing it over to her. I'm not the strongest communicator.
I think it's a great place to end on communication, and then we'll open for questions. I think like having failed at marriage once and really like working hard to make this one work together, it sounds crazy, and you hear this at so many weddings if you go to them about how couples need to communicate. But why is communication hard? I think the first thing is we are all a function of our previous environments, our upbringing, and you don't have to come from a broken home to struggle in marriage. Oftentimes, you can expect from your husband what your father was or wasn't. You can expect from yourself what your mom was or wasn't. Every construct around how to build family, how to grow in community comes from our background. And the thing that I think I've learned the most, and both of us have been willing to do, is actually you have to do the work to learn not just how to communicate, but how to communicate in a way that means something to each other. It's not perfect. I'm not a touchy-feely person by any stretch of the imagination. My husband is very much a physical touch person, and it's something I have to contest because it communicates to him in a particular way. I'm very much acts of service. I love when people do things for me, when they stick to the commitments that they make, and he's had to learn how to do that because that's what communicates love to me. We tend to love the way we want to be loved, and so me doing stuff for Dre, he likes it, but like it's not what communicates to him. And he mentioned fighting earlier. I think that's when it's hardest to communicate, is when you're hurt or you're frustrated or angry. And how do you learn to manage your own emotions? How do you learn to transcend and not shut off, but actually still be willing to engage in that moment? And I've been quite fortunate, I believe, that he's very open to therapy. Like black men often aren't. And therapy is not a failure or something that's broken in you. It is, I believe, it is the greatest gift that you can give to a partner, to be able to say, I can see that this is a struggle for both of us. Let's go and get help. Let's go and speak to someone who can help us figure it out. And so over time, there have been times in our marriage and in our professional lives too, where we've just had to go and seek external help to help us get there. So, yeah.
Yeah, and like for me, just given my background and as maybe partly as a man, what I've had to really work on and learn is just how to hold space, which is how to hold court. I don't have to solve, or I don't have to know the answer. And so there's a natural defensiveness that comes like, oh, this has happened. Can we talk? Then it's like, okay, like, so I'm not methodical. I'm very spontaneous. I think out loud. But so when someone gives me a problem, I naturally am a problem solver. But so having had to learn to, okay, just listen. Don't try to preempt. Don't try to. And naturally, I always think I operate like, how much energy is this going to take from me? Right? So even when with work, I'm like, okay, this thing's gonna take this much energy. I'm gonna do this first, right? So when she comes, like, look, we've had to learn. When she says, look, I don't need you to do anything. I just need you to listen, or I just need you to hear me, or I just need your view. And that's been very difficult for me to learn, just to hold space so that she has the answer actually herself, right? She actually doesn't need me to do anything about it. But I think once you kind of get over that, um, it really then helps, and it helps you not to take things personally, because like the worst thing I like feeling is as a man that I failed you, I failed the family, right? So having gotten to a point where it's okay, I don't need to have the answer, but it's continuous work. I'm not standing here representing that I get it right all the time. So I think I can see we're being told to stop.
That's Sifi.
But those are maybe the three things that we think are important. So just a quick summary. It's okay. We all walk our own journeys, right? Some never fail, some fail all the time, but I firmly believe God has a plan for each and every one of you. And as long as you do the right things, like Nike says, that one of their values is if you do the right things, the money will come, right? If you do the right things, what's ordained for you will come. That's the first thing. I firmly believe it. Like, and that's why we thought you can look at both our stories, right? It wasn't designed. Okay. Third, when it comes to your family, love the three C's, I'm gonna put communication first. I was corrected here. Communication, coordination, constant flexibility. Like it's gotta be about the collective, and all of that has to be juxtaposed upon an agreed set of values, an agreed communal definition of success. And then I think there's space for both of you to thrive independently. Is that okay? Or do you want to say add anything else?
Good. You end. No, you end. It's good.
I am single and I'm already inspired. And I want a partner as of tomorrow. So I'm going to look for one. Guys, we only have about
You see,
5 minutes just to ask questions. So I will
Two,
open it up
three,
to the
4,
floor.
5, 6, 7. Can we do them quickly?
More
You
people
know, the
to
next
assist.
speaker.
We can assist here.
Hi everyone, I'm Lele too. I was looking forward to the session. Thank you guys for your authenticity, your honesty. Thank you for that. I have two questions. I'll be brief. So the first one is, how do you guys make room for each other's individuality whilst holding space, right? Because obviously you've got your own aspirations, but then how do you hold space for each other whilst pursuing your own thing? And then the other question, Billy, was for you in terms of how did you find value in a space and how did you express your value in a space where I don't want to say it didn't necessarily fit, but how did you figure that out? You know, when you spoke about the beginning of your mining journey and finding and expressing value there, how did you figure that out?
Yeah.
Do we want to do a few more and then answer or?
Yeah.
Okay, so the lady with the white shirt was actually first. Sorry. Um, why don't you? Oh,
Okay. Hi, Asipe from Old Mutual. Hi, girl. Thank you for that. And one key takeaway: I need to enroll for my MBA because my husband.
give that.
Anyway, I think this one is more for you. I'm a mom to a boy, and most of the time people are like, "Girl, when are you getting yourself a man?" And I'm like, "Look, obviously we are in a tough time as young people where you're trying to, make big moves in your career. And there's also like a Mjolo pandemic.
Right.
And my answer is always like, he just needs to be a great guy.
Yeah.
And I think you guys touched on that. And Celiwe for me is practically, how did you actually choose and find?
I will tell you.
And
Yeah.
Yeah, I think maybe deal with all three the big questions, and then we'll start.
Okay, hi. My name is Musa Webster, married to this amazing gentleman here.
Greg.
And we have 3 kids, 3 and under.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wow. Maybe you should be up here. Yeah, guys. Wow, wow.
So absolutely loving this season of life. I'm at home full time with the kids. That's the decision we've made. And just wanted, firstly, love your story. Thank you so much for sharing. Absolutely love being here and hearing you guys speak. How do you a lot of the things that you guys have touched on, we've obviously had to navigate and talk about, but through some of the turbulent seasons, the lower times where things are not working out as planned, or just how do you navigate that? Because especially with young ones involved, right? Because it's not just the two of you anymore. You don't have as much flexibility as if it was just the two of you. But with young ones, what would you say are some of the key things to kind of hold on to go facing those seasons of turbulence? What are some of the best ways to navigate it? Because you got to navigate it. It's going to come, it's going to go, but it's navigating that, turbulent season.
Let me take that one. But I think, can we answer the 4 quickly? We don't want to forget. So maybe deal with that too. So, and then
Yeah, like
we'll
for me,
visualize.
actually, the two questions are somewhat related. They may not sound it. Look, it's easy when I stand here talking about it that it looks like it was planned somehow, and this came together like this, and that's how it built in this career, and this is how I found him and spotted him, and he had like this halo
Wrong
light on
question.
him, and I was like, that's it.
That question.
Yes, I said the two are related. So just briefly from a career perspective, I 100% agree with what Dre said about the Jungle Gym. Like a really great book that I recommend everybody reads here is written by a lady called Carice Anderson. It's called Intelligence is Not Enough. I think as Black people, a lot of the time, because we come from we are the first generation people who are breaking through, it's been about school. School is predictable. Learning, studying for an exam, what's an A, what's a B, what's a C, it's all predetermined. Life is a little bit different like that, and especially success at work comes beyond that. You actually need to lift your head up a lot, and a lot of success at work comes through interrelationships than it does through what you deliver on your own. Initially, yes, you need to be able to show what you can do, but the more senior you become, you're actually delivering with and through others. So relationships, like getting along with people matters at work, guys. I wish people understand. Like, I have had people leave in a huff, and then like 2 years later, dear Celiwe, could you please? And I'm like, do you remember how you like? How does that work? So I think people underestimate the need for good relationships. You don't have to go out together, etc., etc. But let's be clear what good looks like. How do we get there together? What do I hold you accountable for? What do I hold myself accountable for? And another great leadership book to read is Radical Candor, particularly if you're leading teams. I feel like in life, and especially at work, we feel like we have to sanitize messaging and package messaging for people. And what Radical Candor teaches you is how to communicate in a way that shows care, but also is very much about like rigor in what it is that we need to be able to do together. It's a learned skill. Nobody's born a leader. I think many people are born and you're like, oh, this guy's got great leadership qualities. You can see this girl is organizing everybody or whatever, but you can learn it. There are so many great books about how to do it well. And I read a lot of biographies, especially from women leaders, because the challenges they faced are there. So read, like consume a lot and seek feedback, give feedback, spend lots of time with people. If you think you're going to succeed on your career on your own, you won't. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. And then specifically about what my requirements were. Look, when I first got married, I was 27, I think. As I told you, my sister met her husband when she was 19. She got married at 23, which is unheard of in our generation. Well, it's uncommon in our generation. And they've been together for a very long time. When I reflect on it now, I think I was actually responding to a lot of pressure, societal pressure, family pressure. My sister and my best friend got married very early and had kids very early. Like my sister's got a 19-year-old and a 17-year-old, and I've got 15, 5, and 3. So different journeys. But I recognize now more than anything that I actually was responding to a lot of pressure on, hey, Ushatanin, hey, what's happening? You know, and I felt like I had to. And it really, in many respects, was just the wrong decision. But I think you only learn through failure what you're looking for. So what were the things that were no-brainer things for me? The first was I come as a package deal. I've got a little boy, and anyone who doesn't want to have kids or doesn't want to be with a woman with a child or whatever, I respect you. Good for you, dude, but this is me, and he's not going anywhere. That was my first thing. My second thing was I actually was looking for somebody who just knew themselves. Like I tested those things throughout. Like, what is he like when he's sick? What is he like on holiday? What's he like with his mother? What is he like with his siblings? Or how does he make friends? How does he walk away? There were a number of things that I also think he just had to jump through a few hoops. Maybe he didn't even realize it at that time. But because I'd failed at it before, I was just like, look, I'll be okay by myself if that's what it means. But I'm not going into this for the sake of just like, ooh, let's put a ring on it, etc. So I was very, very clear about what I needed a guy who had faith on some level, not a church minister or whatever. Like church is really important to me. But like I felt it's important when you start thinking about having kids. I was clear I wanted more kids, you know, so those sorts of things. Things like money and where we live and what we drive, for me, those were not important things. And I promise you, Asipe, I had to do the work myself to understand that that's what I needed. That's, you know, my father was a petty man, but he always used to say to me, hey, maybe you should marry a white guy or something. And only later did I understand why he said that. Because there are certain like dogmatic things that for me, they really are not, they're not the things that drive me. As I said, I love to cook, I love to nurture, but geez, I can't walk in after a long day and it's like, go, I can't, no, I'm just like, no, I can't do, you know. So it was also just like, I had to understand myself. I had to understand the things that make me tick, how I experience love, how I give love. I also had to work on a lot of things about myself. Expectations I had that I saw from my father or from my mother, etc., that I also had to undo and unlearn. And it's work that we continue to do, both of us. It's not a linear path. Yeah.
I think we need to stop.
Thank you, everyone.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Please, thank you for your time. And thank you to everyone for attending this session.
Thank you so
We
much.
truly
Thank you.
appreciate it. It ran quickly, I know. Guys, if you have any more questions, please go into, just send email to info@leadership, lincolnmalileadership.org, where you can direct the questions towards Mr. André as well as Mrs. Celiwe. If you have any more questions, apologizing for cutting the questions short so you can share them out. Thank you for your time, everyone. Thank you again.